A patch 6 days before TI. Now that is hype. Honestly though, I was pretty disappointed at the fact that we didn't get a patch with the compendium and would see PA get banned or picked every game at TI, but thankfully that isn't the case anymore. It is a letter patch, so I'm not expecting huge changes, especially 6 days before TI. Well, without wasting any time, let's look at what the patch offers us. Starting with the item updates. Blade Mill damage bonus decreased from 20 to 18. That is a justified nerf, but honestly though, I don't think the damage component was the reason behind it being picked on a lot of meta heroes. It was mainly the fact that heroes like Primal Beast, Earth Spirit, Kunkka, LC could just buy it and run at you without you having a way to counter it. Notice how all of these heroes like to go on you. And if you want to fight them, behold, Blade Mail. This item is still good and will still be picked up by the same heroes that were buying it in the previous patch. Eul's recipe cost decreased from 775 to 675. This might sound very small, but it's significant. Supports have very minimal ways of collecting gold, and Eul's is one of those early game items that counters most of the meta picks. If you think about it, these Earth Spirits, Primal Beasts, Invokers crumble against Eul's, but the problem is, this thing costs too much gold for support to buy it. Now with the 100 gold decrease, it's slightly easier to buy, so it's a nice change overall. Hand of Midas attack speed bonus decreased from plus 40 to plus 35. This seems like it's targeted towards Brewmaster mainly, as that hero would straight up buy an urn and rush the Midas and still be useful in fight thanks to his right clicks. Other than that, I saw a lot of pros buying Midas more frequently on heroes that benefit from attack speed. Faceless Void and Slark are some examples. I even saw Yatoro buy Midas on TA. TA has a lot of attack damage. Attack speed is what she lacks. It's a minor nerf and the popularity will stay the same in terms of how much the item is picked up. Heart recipe cost increased from 1200 to 1300. Again, target towards mostly these mid laners and off laners like Primal Beast, Kunkka and Earth Spirit. These heroes dish out so much damage with their low cooldowns and were also unkillable by just rushing Blade Mail into hard. So a good change overall in terms of a letter patch. It still doesn't make them switch up their build. It's just that it makes their game slightly harder. Wind Waker recipe cost increased from 1300 to 1400. Based on what we talked about before about Eul's, it just speaks for itself. Ice Frog wants the supports to be able to pick this item up in the early game to make the game harder for these roaming mid laners that have taken over the meta. Wind Waker is a late game item. If it was cheaper as a whole, the supports would straight up rush it, making it slightly broken. Moving on to the neutral item updates. Occult Bracelet. Mana regen per stack decreased from 0.5 to 0.4. This neutral item has been a no-brainer ever since it got the magic resistance on it. They nerfed it in pretty much every patch, but the item was still pretty busted, being the most picked neutral item in Dream League. Imagine a tier 1 giving you mana regen, stats, and magic resistance. This item is still at least A tier if still not S. Tumbler's Toy. Mana bonus decreased from 200 to 150. This item is like a mini blink and very useful for supports in the early game to position themselves better. It was the second most picked neutral item in the early game in Dream League after Occult Bracelet. It's a good item for supports and the nerf on the mana is a good change. Supports were able to position themselves better whilst having more mana to cast more spells in fights. This item is still definitely good. Ninja Gear. Cooldown increased from 45 seconds to 60 seconds. Losing Ninja Gear removes Solitary Disguise. Every fucking game I saw at least 6 heroes having Ninja Gear in the late game. These nerfs pretty much killed the item, as previously you had a downtime of only 10 seconds, but now it's a whooping 25 seconds. Not to mention, you lose the effect if you backpack the item. This eliminates the possibility of having the movement speed plus smoke benefits while keeping another item. A lot of cores in the late game loved having a ninja gear just so they could have movement speed whilst replacing their treads for a bigger item. I don't think we will be seeing much of ninja gear anymore, and honestly it's 100% deserved. The item was too strong for too long. Moving on to the hero changes. Abaddon. Base intelligence increased from 18 to 19, intelligence gain increased from 1.2 to 1.6. These buffs are mainly for support Abaddon as they allow him to have more mana, which means that he can cast more spells, which was one of the issues with Abaddon. Aphotic Shield damage barrier increased by 10 on every level, which is pretty good. This hero could see a comeback. Anti-Mage, base armor increased by 1. Mana Void, mana cost decreased from 100, 200, 300 to 100, 150 and 200. The biggest problem with Anti-Mage is that he doesn't have a way to survive lanes. Previously, he could buy a Vanguard and disassemble it into Battle Fury, but that isn't the case anymore because Battle Fury no longer requires a ring. Vanguard gave him enough damage block to survive and stay in lanes. The +1 armor is definitely good, but I still feel like it's not enough to make this hero good. Mana Void change doesn't change much either. Arc Warden, Spark Wraith, now deals 40% more damage to non-hero units. Tempest Double now can be self-cast to spawn the double next to Arc Warden. Easier to secure creeps in the lane with Spark Wraith with this buff and just overall makes them farm slightly faster. Other than that, they could potentially be used against summons. Tempest Double change is mostly a quality of life change. Beastmaster, base armor decreased by 1. Call of the Wild Hawk root duration decreased from 1 seconds to 0.25 per level. I despise this hero, laning him is absurd. The -1 armor is completely justified as he could get a 4 to 5 minute helm and would suddenly become unkillable. The root duration nerf is good as well. Beast laning was way too simplified and now it will actually take some brain cells to play this hero. He was strong in the lane and then because of that he would get a good Dominator 2 timing which he could use to take over the map. Bounty Hunter, base attack time decreased from 1.7 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Bounty Hunter carry pause champ. This hero has 8 base armor and the base attack time buff makes him pretty busted at trading. Good buff to overall both support and carry bounty. It's likely that someone might pull up with a Bounty Hunter carry in your pubs very soon. Maybe that could be me. Brewmaster, Drunken Brawler, Brewed Up multiplier decreased from 3x to 2.5x. Primal Split, mana cost increased by 25 on every level. Aghanim's Shard cancel now always makes Brewmaster reappear according to regular Brewling priority regardless of which Brewling activated it. Okay. Brewmaster was the strongest offlaner in 7.34 thanks to him being universal, and the buffs to Vessel and his Shard. The hero had a strong laning phase because of Urn and Cinderbrew. Brewed Up multiplier decrease makes him less potent in the lane, and the Aghanim Shard buff make it so that if he cancels his ult, he will appear on the Stone Brew regardless of his stance at the time of activating it. This is a huge nerf because previously, you could buy a Midas Octarine and just rat buildings with the Shard by keeping one Brewling behind. This can still be done, but the risk is too high. Definitely deserve nerfs and will probably make us see less of the hero now. Chaos Knight, Chaos Strike creep damage multiplier increased from 1.6 to 1.9. Damn. Pretty good buff. He was quite dead for some time. He received some buffs in 7.34, but it wasn't enough to make him at the same level as P and Sven. This change basically makes him farm faster. CK is an illusion based hero and illusion heroes got nerfed heavily because of the Radiance and Maelstrom buffs on illusion. With this change, he can be farmed enough to not rely on his illusions to play the game, or he can make his illusions really strong by being so farmed. I'm definitely going to try him, that's for sure. Crystal Maiden, Kristen Clone, which is her shard, no longer interrupts Crystal Maiden's channeling. Cooldown decreased from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. This shard felt underwhelming, but now being able to disjoint stuns while using your ult, it could serve a purpose. We shall know more based on whether she's coming back in the meta depending upon the nerfs on the S tier supports of 7.34C. Dark Willow, Bramble Maze cooldown increased from 20 seconds to 22 seconds. One of the best 4s of 7.34C. This is a laning nerf mostly as she won't be able to spam it that often. Dawnbreaker, intelligence gain decreased from 2.2 to 2.0. Level 25 talent Starbreaker cooldown reduction decreased from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. This hero was S tier in 7.34 and slowly got nerfed in the later patches. She has major mana issues and Soul Ring isn't a feels good item anymore. With the nerf on the intelligence gain, it just means that she will have more mana problems which will make her less potent in the lane. The level 25 talent is a decent nerf, not that big of a deal since it's ultra late game. Death Prophet, level 15 talent Crypt's form cooldown reduction increased from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds. DP has been pretty much dead for a long time now. This buff helps her in farming and scaling better, but I feel like the plus 300 health talent is still better and doesn't solve her issues. The meta requires roaming mid laners that can set up and shit. DP doesn't do any of that. She pretty much just destroys building and just like runs at you. Drow Ranger, Gust bonus movement speed increased from 10% to plus 2% at every level, except for the first level. Also another dead hero. This change doesn't mean much to me, At least as most people didn't level up Gus more than a single point. But when you think about her issues not being able to play against these jumpy meta heroes, the extra movement speed might actually help. But then again, you only have 4 points in Gus at like what, level 14? So I think the hero is still bad. Earth Spirit, level 20 talent, Boulder Smash damage decrease from plus 125 to plus 100. This hero is in the S tier category for mid laners at the moment, and just this nerf might not be enough for him to not be S tier. The indirect nerfs through Blade Mail, Midas, and Heart will make him slightly weaker, but he's in no way still not an S tier mid laner. I feel like he's still super fucking good. Earthshaker, level 25 talent, enchant totem, cooldown reduction decrease from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Still a good hero, just that he won't be able to spam enchant totem as often in the late game with his Octarine build. Enigma, holy moly. Tia is here, Enigma is also here. Eidolon gold bounty decreased by 4. Okay, that's pretty nice. Mana cost decreased from 75, 100, 125, 150 to 70, 80, 90, and 100. That's like 50 mana difference at level 4. Cooldown decrease from 60 to 40 at level 1. Okay, that's actually pretty fucking huge. And 52 to 38. Okay. This actually makes Enigma's laning phase significantly better. He was a pretty dog water hero mostly because of his early game. But with the cooldown and mana cost reductions, we might be seeing some black hole action at TI. It is indeed TI season when you see Enigma buffs. Grimstroke, level 15 talent, Inkswell movement speed decreased from plus 16% to 14%. Slight nerf to the hero as he was quite popular in 7.34c. I think he's still a good hero as his Shard and Ultimate are a counter to the jumpy meta. Being able to leash mobile heroes and saving his scores with the strong dispels are the reasons he is popular. None of those things got changed. Gyrocopter. Flak Cannon, Aghanim Scepter side gunner attack interval increased from 1.2 seconds to 1.3 seconds. As Yator said in Dream League that Gyro is a bad hero, this makes him even worse as his farming capability with Ags and overall damage numbers get reduced with this nerf. He was in the A tier category for me previously, but now I would probably say he's around lower B. I might not even pick him unless I have like an Io or something with me. Hoodwink, Scurry buff duration rescale from 4 seconds to 3.5, 4, 4.5, and 5 seconds. I guess this is a decent change when it comes to post laning phase. Not much that I can say here. The hero is okay-ish, I guess. Huskar, Burning Spear duration increased from 8 seconds to 9 seconds. Huskar is a cheese hero and will always remain a cheese hero. It's a good buff and makes his cheese lane even more miserable, but certainly doesn't make him less of a cheese hero and more of a good hero in most games. Invoker, base health regen decreased from 1 to 0.5, Cold Snap freeze heal decreased, EMP burned mana as mana restored decreased from 50% to 25%. These are mostly nerfs to his laning phase. Invoker is one of the most picked heroes ever since his universal change. In the laning phase, he pretty much has infinite mana and HP thanks to the spell Lifesteal and EMP. The nerfs on the number of health regen and mana restore makes him more vulnerable in the lane. He's still a good hero if he can get out of the laning phase. Kunkka, level 20 talent nerfed. Only seeing a talent nerf mainly because indirect nerfs to Blade Mail and Heart affect him. He was being picked in Dream League but was quickly figured out, so nerfing him more doesn't do much. Ice Frog's main focus when it comes to patches is to not completely delete heroes out of the game unless they're like super fucking broken. Legion Commander, level 20 talent nerfed, minor nerfs to LC scaling, still a decent hero I would say. Lich, base intelligence increased by 2, talents buffed slightly. Lich excels in the lane by constantly spamming his low cooldown nuke. With the base intelligence buff, he gets to spam it more often because of more mana, but I don't think that's enough to bring him back in the meta. Lifestealer Feast, max health damage increased from 0.8, 1.2 to 1, 1.3, 1.6, and 1.9%. Oh my god, Lifestealer buffs around TI. Is it finally time for RTZ to win at TI? These numbers are actually good buffs. Lifestealer's problem is that this hero felt like it doesn't do any damage. It slows you and that's about it. With this buff, he will do significantly more damage. He's definitely going to be back in the meta because I feel like I saw RTZ playing it a bit and he was winning with it. So if he got buffed even more and these numbers are not small, then there's definitely a chance that Lifestealer is going to be back in the meta. Luna Moonglave's damage reduction per bounce from Wait, what the fuck? From decreased, I don't know what the fuck they wrote, but it seems like the damage reduction has been reduced, which is a buff, and then the Aghanim Shard got some buffs, and the Talent got a buff. Slight buff to her farming capability, I would say. With the way you skill build the hero, she can farm better at earlier levels now. Shard still seems a bit memeish to me, but I think it could be good against illusion heroes. But yeah, overall, I feel like the buffs to her Moonglaves at early levels is pretty huge. And now she already farms really fast, and the capability of like farming faster at early levels is also good. Magnus Shockwave mana cost rescaled from 70, 80, 90, 100 to 75. Flat 75, okay. Magnus was like a completely dead hero in 7.34. This is a good buff to his laning phase. Now he can constantly spam Shockwave without having mana issues, which can make him win a lot of lanes. This hero needs items to be useful, and Shockwave allows him to get to those item timings. Marcy Sidekick is no longer castable on illusions. Now is always active for Marcy with 50% effectiveness. Okay, so she gets 50%. Even if it's not applied to any ally. Okay. I guess there's like minor buff to core Marcy, but it's like still like whatever. You know, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. Meepo base mana regen increased by 0.25. Ransack Hellsteel buffed. Mega Meepo duration increased by 5 seconds. Small buffs to Meepo after he got nerfed because of the Rod of Eros changes and his general nerfs. I feel like Meepo is a cheesy hero and still remains the same. Will be seen very less in TI, if not at all. Nature's Prophet. Oh my god, this fucking hero. Base strength decreased from 21 to 19. Very nice. Sprout cooldown increased. Very nice, by 2 seconds in the earlier levels. Very good. Good nerfs to his laning phase now that he won't be able to press Sprout every second. Definitely not a first pick hero anymore. He can be punished fairly easily now in the lane. I would say he's not that good anymore. Ogre Magi. Fire Blast cast range increased by 50. Bloodlust bonus attack speed increased in the later levels a bit. Self bonus attack speed increased as well. Unrefined Fire Blast cast range increased by 50 as well. Good buffs, but not exactly like super huge. But definitely good, that's for sure. Pangolier. Swashbuckle mana cost increased from 75 to 75, 80, 85, and 90. So 5 per level. Okay. Shield Crash mana cost increased as well. Damage decreased as well. By a lot, actually. Level 20 talent also nerfed. Okay, they might have actually done it. This time they have figured out a way to actually not accidentally buff him while trying to nerf him. Pango has major mana cost issues and always needed arcane boots. Now with more mana cost issues and damage nerfs, he's amazingly less potent as he won't be able to just spam his Q and W in lane. Perhaps it's finally time to see a tournament without Pango being the most contested hero. These nerfs are big. They might actually just like kill the hero. Phantom Assassin, the elephant in the room. Blur Vanish radius increased by 100. Aghanim Scepter cooldown rescaled from 10 seconds to 50% of the current cooldown. Okay, does that mean it doesn't refresh? Pretty sure that means it doesn't refresh. Aghanim Scepter no longer increases Vanish buffer. Chance of Deadly Focus decreased by 3% and 6% for Stifling Dagger. Okay, huge actually. Her axe was essentially the same pre 7.34. The 5% increase in the chance and the damage increase was what made her essentially broken. Her axe was definitely broken. These changes are really good, but they might have just killed the hero. Now she can't go brain dead and commit on any hero in the fight and not get caught. Previously the cooldown would refresh, but now it's only 50%, which means that she won't be able to blur away and blink out anymore. She's definitely not S tier anymore. I doubt she's still even A tier. Folks, you no longer have to ban or pick this hero in every game anymore. Primal Beast Uproar base bonus damage decreased. Slight nerfs. He's in the same category as Kunkka and Earth Spirit. The indirect nerfs on top of this should hinder his impact on the game. Pugna Nether Blast damage increased by 15%. Decrepify enemy move slow increased. Cast range increased. Easier to position on him now, which is the biggest part about Pugna. He's just been dead for quite some time. Not sure whether this is enough, as this hero doesn't offer much of a save or a lockdown in comparison to other supports like Wench or like Warlock and stuff like that. Riki Smokescreen radius increased from 375 to 425. Sand King Burrow Strike cooldown decreased by 1 second per level. Slight better at laning now since he doesn't put much levels in his Q in the laning phase. Shadow Demon Demonic Cleanse and Demonic Purge duration decreased by 1 second. Popular hero at Dream League because of his save potential, minor nerfs, but he's still a really good hero in my opinion. Slardar Slytherin Crush cooldown decreased from 8 seconds to 7 seconds. Cooldown reduction makes his laning phase a bit better because he gets damage and attack speed more often thanks to the puddle of water that he makes after he uses Slytherin Crush. Slark level 25 talent duration decreased by 10 seconds. Nerf to his late game scalability. He was top 5 carry mainly because his late game is one of the strongest in the game in 7.34c. Spectre Shadow Steps cooldown decreased by 20 seconds at level 1, 10 seconds at level 2, and the same at level 3. This is a huge buff to Spectre. 20-second less downtime on level 1 Shadow Step means that she can fight more often in the early game while keeping up with her farm. This hero relies on kills and skirmishes to scale. She's received buffs previously as well. The problem is she farms really slow, but I'm sure Yatoro or someone will figure out a way to make her work. She doesn't require an axe anymore, and that gold can be used to buy a farming item. Lifestealer and Spectre might be the winners of this patch when it comes to carries. Spirit Breaker, Greater Bash, movement speed as damage increased by 5% per level. Okay. As much as I love patches, I really hate seeing Spirit Breaker get buffs. I really fucking hate this hero. This buff basically means that he has an easier time split pushing waves with his charge and overall will do more damage in the laning and throughout the game. More damage means that he gets to kill waves easier, pretty much. Sven base damage decreased by 4, God strength bonus damage decrease by 20% at every level. Second best carry after PA, nerfs to his early game and overall damage output, which is what Sven is strong for. His laning is strong because he can get 3 levels in his cleave and keep pushing in waves. Later on in the game, his damage output and item timings are really powerful. This tones it down, but I think he's still at least A tier. A lot of it depends upon what heroes are in the meta that might counter him. Like Lifestealer is like a decent counter for Sven. Techie's Blast Off cooldown rescaled from actually got nerfed at earlier levels and buffed at later levels, and all flying heroes can now trigger the mines. For some reason they've nerfed it, even though this hero was not seeing any playtime. So I'm not exactly sure. Timbersaw Whirling Death damage increased by 80, 120, 160, 200, 285, 130, 175, 220. Pretty nice. Nerfed at level 1 but overall better at other levels. If you go for the chain plus armor build, this might be a bit worse than before because you only put like 1 point in your Whirling Death. Treant Protector base damage decreased by 2, base mana regen decreased by 0.25. And then Talents nerfed a bit. One of the best supports of 7.34c. He hits for a lot of damage, so the base damage nerfs makes sense, making his laning weak. He has mana issues and making his base mana regen lower stops him from using his spells more often. Still think he's a decent support if paired with a strong laning core. Vengeful Spirit Magic Missile cooldown increased by 3 seconds at level 1. Attack damage reduction decreased as well. Similar to Treant, nerfs to the laning aspect of Vengeful Spirit, and these are actually massive. She's not S tier anymore, more of like a B tier as these numbers are big nerf in the early game. Visage Stone Form cooldown decreased by 3 seconds. Okay. Warlock Upheaval slow per second rescale from 10, 15, 20, 25 to 11, 14, 17, and 20. Level 10 talent also nerfed. Another S tier support of 7.34c, slightly buffed at level 1 but nerfed overall. I feel like this hero is still really strong. Upheaval is an annoying spell to play against, but it's the Fatal Bonds that do the most damage for this hero. His pairing with cores like Sven and Gyro is weakened, which may be an indirect nerf, but he's still definitely in the lower S category for me because Fatal Bonds are like completely untouched. Weaver Sakuchi damage increased. Germinate attack damage also increased by 5. Buffs for Weaver carry. Honestly, I don't play this hero enough to know how good this is. It indicates that he will farm better, which means he will scale better. There's also more harass in the lane, which gives more potential to having a farmed Weaver. And a farm Weaver is always nice to have. I just lost a game to a farm Weaver before this patch. So there's definitely potential. Wind Ranger Power Shot reduction per unit decreased by 5%. Minor buff to the farming aspect of Wind Ranger. This can be good for Wind Ranger on pretty much every role as she farms better, so she scales better. This hero is pretty good when she has items. Winter Wyvern Splinter Blast, projectile speed increased, Winter Curse duration increased. Winter has been receiving some buffs lately and these are also pretty nice. She's a good support and has the potential to scale into a core later on in the game, and the buffs to the Winter Curse might make her viable in the meta, but definitely still a situational support rather than a first pick, like how you would pick a Warlock or a Treant. Witch Doctor base strength increased from 18 to 20, Death Ward cooldown increased, damage also increased. I have no idea why Witch Doctor's damage got increased. It seemed to me that this hero was already good, and this makes him slightly better. Seems like an overall nerf since the cooldown is 20 seconds more at level 18, and he's not hard to counter in the early levels as he doesn't have that many ways to make his ult work. Wraith King level 15 talent increased by 0.25 seconds, the stun duration. More potential with the Blink Initiation Burst with the Deso Armlet build, but not exactly in the winners of the patch. Surprised to see that Dazzle and Bristleback remain untouched. Overall, I would say it's a good patch, and this will definitely switch the meta away from the first pick PAs. The carry hero pool will change completely. Murtha remained unchanged, so she's definitely still a top tier pick. Other than that, Spectre, CK, and Lifestealer might be the upcoming meta carries along with Void, who remained unchanged. The mid meta seems about the same except for Pango. I think this hero will be seen a lot less, if not at all. As for offlane, we might see some Abaddon with Axe and Holy Locket for support. Warlock is still good. Bounty 4 will see an increase in pick rate, Enigma and Pugna as well. That will be it for this video. If you are interested in private coaching, you can join my Discord linked in the description. Please make sure to subscribe and like the video for more high quality content like this. If you like to support me and watch exclusive coaching videos, my Patreon is in the description. Other than that, I stream on Twitch, which can be found in the description. Do let me know in the comments if you have any feedback, as this was my first patch analysis. Otherwise, have a nice day and good luck with your games.